Hello and welcome to the air quality episode in the Resource Explainer video series for the Delta Conveyance Project Draft Environmental Impact Report, or EIR, where we break down the contents of various chapters in the document. My name is Laura Yoon, and I'm a managing director at ICF. I was the technical lead and principal author of the air quality and greenhouse gas analysis for the Delta Conveyance Project EIR. This video describes Chapter 23 in the draft EIR, which covers air quality and greenhouse gases. We will provide a few key highlights of the chapter in this video, rather than the full summary. The draft EIR, which is now available for public review and comment, was prepared to comply with the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. The document evaluates a range of alternatives to the proposed project, which are all analyzed at the same level of detail. An impact refers to a change from the existing baseline condition that could result from the project or each project alternative. Mitigation refers to actions that are meant to avoid, minimize, or compensate for an identified impact. The agency must adopt all feasible mitigations as part of the project approval. For the air quality chapter, ways to avoid and minimize impacts include using the best available control technologies, implementing a robust dust control plan, and prioritizing use of zero emissions electric-powered vehicles and construction equipment. The air quality emissions we evaluated are ozone precursors, carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, particulate matter, and greenhouse gases. These emissions would occur mainly from construction activities and material and employee transport. We will use these anticipated emissions or concentrations of the pollutants to determine if they would fall below thresholds defined by state or local air resource regulatory agencies. The document identifies potential region-wide impacts to air quality and describes the commitment to mitigation measures consistent with state and local air resource regulatory agencies that would reduce those impacts to less than significant. The regional emissions analysis focuses on ozone precursors and particulate matter. Once these pollutants are emitted, based on specific regional weather patterns, they can be transported within and between air basins, impacting air quality for many miles from the emission source. However, there is no region-wide impact to air quality anticipated from the proposed project or any of the project alternatives. The document also describes the air quality analysis and findings related to localized pollutants. Localized pollutants are carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and particulate matter. Once these pollutants are emitted, they tend to accumulate in the air locally and can impact air quality in the immediate vicinity of the emission source. The conclusions in the analysis show that there are some locations around the larger construction areas where air quality is anticipated to exceed ambient air quality standards during some periods of construction. The air quality analysis also describes potential effects to human health from exposure to project-generated diesel particulate matter. One intake location shows a potential increase in risk to human health. The document identifies best management practices that will be implemented to reduce on-site emissions and mitigation to reduce off-site receptor exposure to diesel particulate matter and associated health risk. The human health risk mitigation measure includes the provision of financial assistance for the 3 impacted receptors for high efficiency home filters or relocation during construction. If all 3 impacted receptors accept the assistance, health risks to these receptors near the intakes would be reduced to less than significant. All other project locations are anticipated to see a negligible increase in risk to human health. With respect to greenhouse gases, mitigation would reduce emissions from construction and long-term operation to net zero. For example, DWR may elect to pursue on-site control strategies, such as electrified equipment, provide financial assistance for renewable energy in the community, or purchase carbon offset credits, among other things, to meet this net zero commitment. Emissions generated by project maintenance and changes in operation in the State Water Project would not conflict with DWR's ability to implement its climate action plan. Thus, we do not anticipate any long-term climate impact associated with the project. There are a couple areas where the analysis goes beyond what is typically done in an EIR. For instance, when looking at potential human health impacts, the analysis looks beyond the potential exposure to evaluate the overall community health burden from construction-generated air emissions. The EIR connects the dots between pollutants and the potential health impacts for a community using a rigorous approach that is included in few EIRs. The project's contribution to all health endpoints and the proportion of those effects relative to the background health incidents are low. With the land use changes resulting from the project, there are impacts anticipated in how carbon is released and stored. The EIR includes a quantitative analysis that uses the best available data and science to estimate greenhouse gas emissions from land use change. If you would like to review the draft EIR or this chapter in particular, please visit www.deltaconveyanceproject.com. Comments on the draft EIR can be submitted by email, regular mail, verbally at a public hearing, or through our website. Your comments will be considered, and all substantive comments will be responded to in the final EIR. Thank you for watching this video.